So, Siva, you can join us on the stage. Her story tonight is called The National One, Not That National One. Everybody welcome her.
Thanks, Alicia. So Catherine McCormick and I are obviously soulmates, which is amazing. And also, it's a huge problem to follow up behind Catherine McCormick. So let's all just take a pause. The reason that my story is called The National One, Not That National One is because it's about the National Mall, like in DC, because yeah, I know. Because when I heard this theme, the mall, the first thing I thought of was like the political, like the place where people go for protests in DC, because I have no memories of going to the mall as a child or teenager. Like the way that I grew up, whenever we went shopping, we'd go to like the giant Zellers with the parking lot in front, and we didn't park there because we didn't have a car. We just drive. I mean, we take a bus to the Zellers, wander around, like that was our one option for clothing, and then we'd come home. So no mall stories, but yes, the National Mall story. So okay, big intro. So who loves overnight bus trips? Who loves overnight bus trips on Halloween weekend for no reason? So Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert had a rally in Washington over Halloween weekend in 2010. And I told all my friends, and they were all like, why would you pay $50 to sleep on a bus and then like sit around and in a country you don't live in to talk about a political climate that does not apply to you? So it was just me on this bus trip. And like 50 other great political nerds, which is really great because I went completely with blind. I was just like, fine, I'm gonna go on my own. It's gonna be amazing. I will have a map of DC and I will walk because I have this budget. I'm gonna spend $50 for the trip, and then I'm just gonna walk from the stadium where we park through DC to the mall, and then I'll like go to the Smithsonian. I know that's free. And I'll just do this whole thing by myself, and then I'll come back and like flaunt it in my friends' faces. And then I got on the bus, and I was sitting by myself on an aisle seat, and somebody else was sitting by themselves. And then a couple walked in, and they were like, "Oh, where are we gonna sit?" And I was like, And then the guy who was sitting across the aisle from me was like, "Oh, like you and I," and I was like, "Oh, like we can make friends on this bus." So I made 6 such friends, and we still get together on a regular basis. So bus trips can do that for you. So it was this great overnight trip. We stopped at a Denny's. So I checked that off my life to-do list. We went through the border, and for the first time in a long time, I was not asked whether I was hiding mangoes in my back pocket, which for some reason, apparently, like this is the classic face of somebody who smuggles mangoes over the border filled with cocaine, but and then we arrived in Washington. And the weird thing about the concept of this rally is that it was called the Rally for Sanity. It was Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. Well, Stephen Colbert's whole shtick is like promoting antipathy and antagonism. So his was the march to keep fear alive, and then Jon Stewart had an opposing Rally for Sanity, which is like just a really unfortunate title, and basically saying like, oh, if you get up in arms about political problems, like, whoa, like slow your roll. Why are you getting so crazy about gay rights? And like I'm sorry, Jon Stewart, I'm so sorry for getting really upset about rights, and like I'll calm down and like stop being so hysterical. It's basically, I had a problem with the whole rally, so I don't really like, I wasn't there to support the rally, and I wasn't there to like ironically be there to be like, oh, Jon Stewart. I mean, I love Jon Stewart. Like I don't know anybody who doesn't, but I was kind of there with the same attitude that I went to see Twilight, you know, like I didn't love Twilight. And I also wasn't watching it ironically. I was there because I was like, this is something I should probably do. So this is like, so that I can participate in the cultural conversation. Like I made Twilight into homework. But so this rally, I was like, I should be there so that I can like participate in the discussion about our political climate, or about the American political climate as compared to Canada. Because it was interesting to me that this rally for sanity was being held because supposedly both sides of the political spectrum in the States, which to our eyes are like one side of the political spectrum, like the right and then the really right, or that both sides were like really emotionally affected and having a lot of and we're getting really antagonistic and angry and excited, and so they had to like have this rally to be like calm down. Whereas in Canada, and this is true, Collins International Dictionary, when they introduced the word meh, as in like meh, to their dictionary, like MEH, their example sentence was the Canadian election was so meh. So like we were kind of tourists to this world where like for some reason they were really, really into their political system. And on our side, like for Canadians, it's like we don't have to be like, why you mad? We should really be like, why ain't you mad? Like there's a lot of stuff going on here that nobody really seems to get up in arms about, and maybe we should have something to learn from how up in arms they get. So we were there as kind of these tourists in this political climate. We walked around Washington. We went to this rally. We ended up kind of midway along this giant crowd. We were kind of in the middle of the crowd, and it didn't even occur to us how big this crowd was until they made us do the wave, which has like a real important significance in like any large event. The wave is there specifically so that you can see like how long it takes the wave to get to you, so you can be like, whoa, this is a really huge crowd. So it was like this nice feeling of being in an environment where all these other people were also really excited and also had really punny signs. And the CBC was there, and they were like, whoa, you're Canadian, why are you here? And we had to be like, we don't really know. And then after the rally was over, and it was really quick, it was just like the Roots sang or played, and then Stephen Colbert like fake pretended to be an evil superhero for fear, and then Jon Stewart defeated him, and Stephen Colbert agreed that everyone should just be nice to each other, like that was the way to solve ethical quandaries in the States. And then the march the rally kind of broke up, and then we walked around and looked at all these buildings. And Washington is a really weirdly created, like, grown-up Disneyland. Like, has anyone ever been to Disneyland or Disney World? Like, you know how they've got different worlds that are kind of like modeled on different countries and different architecture? Washington is like modeled on ancient Rome for some reason, because when they were being created as a country, when the States was being created, they were like, well, how are we going to show that we have legitimacy when we're the youngest country? Oh, I know. We'll go like way far back to ancient Rome, which, because we want to eventually get to that level of complete, like, to the point of so like it's just unreal. The Capitol and Jefferson Memorial and then the Lincoln Memorial, it's all columns and it's white. And except for Washington Monument, which looks like an Egyptian obelisk because like Rome is not old enough. So it's just this weird like fake obsession with like fake historicism to create a sense of historical legitimacy, right, for their government. And we're walking around and we're just like kind of in awe of the over grandeur of it, if that makes sense. And we did all the normal things that you have to go to. We like looked at the White House through the iron bars, and we like looked at the Washington Monument from across the field. Like it was like seeing postcards in 3D, which was nice. And then we went to the Lincoln Memorial and watched the sunset. It was very romantic and beautiful. And we were like, we're going to be friends forever. And this was like a life-changing experience. And it occurred to me that maybe part of the reason that a lot of Americans are so emotionally invested in their politics is because they give it this grandeur, that this architecture and like the constant references to events of historical importance, right? But then a couple months ago, I don't even know how long ago this was, but during our liberal leadership race between an astronaut and someone very handsome, when the astronaut dropped out, he actually said, like this made my day, he said, give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. So which was like, okay, does anybody, come on. That was great. And it was this amazing reference. It was like the liberal leadership race is equivalent to like the emperorship of Rome, you know? And I was like, that's good. We should continue on this like role of trying to inflate the importance of our political system so that we can like actually get interested and involved and excited the way that that those dang Americans are. And maybe we'll have our own funny rally full of puns, and Americans will ship in to see us. So that's my story of the National Mall.